Hello, Iris J here with Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I am chatting with you about the Virgo Full Moon. So this is happening on February 24th at 7:31 a.m. where I am. That is in Eastern Time. I am in Canada, so wherever you are, you want to adapt if you do such things and like to work with the full moon, if you have your full moon rituals. And what is this full moon about? So let's acknowledge that 2024 has been a lot. The Aquarius new moon that we are coming out of and then moving with the waxing of the moon towards this Virgo full moon, for some folks was a bit intense. There's a lot going on right now, and there's a lot going on potentially also karmically. This also, of course, always depends upon our charts and our natal charts and what's being activated. But it's been an intense period for some folks. I know I've been feeling it. So firstly, just take a moment, take a few breaths, feel into this body that we live in. And that's really important because we got a Virgo full moon and Virgo's very concerned about our body. So just welcoming in some spaciousness, especially if it's been a kind of intense time for you, because usually when the intensity rises, our body starts contracting and that can then trigger more anxiety and stress. So just taking a few mindful breaths as we come in, I think it's really helpful because there's a lot going on. And what is going on? Let's talk about the full moon. So this is a Virgo full moon. It's also a full moon that really has us working in the axis of Virgo and Pisces because there's a lot going on in Pisces. So I am going to put, here's a picture of the chart right now. So you can see that we have the moon there in Virgo at around 5 degrees. And then opposite that, we have the sun. That's what makes it a full moon. They're opposite each other. And then we also have the sun hanging out with a few friends there in Pisces, and that is Mercury and Saturn, okay? So this is a full moon, and the sun is conjunct Saturn and Mercury. So that means that Pisces area of the chart is really activated. So if you have anything, especially around 5 degrees, Virgo, Pisces, but then in Pisces, if you have anything, I mean, Mercury is there around 2 degrees going up to 9 degrees with Saturn. If you have anything in that area, you'll be feeling this more in terms of whatever planet point angle you have there that's being activated. And so we really do have to open up that axis of Virgo Pisces energy because that is what is coming up, okay? And a full moon, you know, it's always illuminating. It's bringing into an ability to see aspects of something in that sign, Virgo, the archetype of Virgo, that we might not have been aware of, that absolutely, most likely is syncing in with whatever came up for us during the Aquarius new moon. Whatever is activated at that time is probably also part of a cycle and coming into a new illumination that is now between that Virgo moon and the Pisces energy that's going on. Okay, so what's Virgo? So how we work with the Virgo Pisces axis actually has a lot to do with what type of astrologer we are, what type of practice we have. So I'm an evolutionary astrologer, and a lot of my readings and a lot of my clients and work is with folks who are coming into new awareness of their spiritual journeys, spiritual callings, spirituality itself, coming to new embodiments with spirituality, also as that combines with healing and the complicated, messy ways that our own personal traumas often are also a very big part of our own spiritual journeys in this life. And the reason I am saying all of this is because when I work with the Virgo Pisces axis, I am absolutely working with that Pisces archetype of spirituality. Pisces archetype is ultimately the dissolving of the ego and the reunion with divine source, creative consciousness, God consciousness, goddess, whatever language, the universe, right? It is also the collective unconscious. It is the deep ocean. It is the oceanic shifts. And in that respect, it is everything from the most beautiful, mystical, divine insight of illuminating light and the deepest depths of the ocean that also include grief and the way that they just flow into each other. Pisces is a sign really without boundaries. And who's in there? Who's making their way through Pisces right now? Saturn, our boundary maker. Okay, so it's really important to know that about Pisces, because Virgo is opposite Pisces. And so Virgo is this earth energy. Pisces is water. Virgo is very much about this plane, this earthly plane, and it's even more so about my own mind-body experience, my own embodied journey of being in this plane in the here and now, and how I interact with my immediate environments, how I am of service both to myself as a mind-body complex and how I'm of service to the environment that I am part of. It is ultimately the coming together of mind and body so that that beautiful divine energy opposite the way that's in a whole other realm can manifest in this life, in this body, in this experience, and in the things I do, and especially with Virgo, in the way that I do them. If you have a lot of Virgo, sweet Virgo folks that have a lot of Virgo, or just a strong Virgo archetype within your psyche, then Virgo can also become the perfectionist of the zodiac. It can get very attached to its way of doing things. And it's very important to acknowledge that all Virgos can have their own ways of doing things. And they're not always super clean. Some Virgos are, others not. But they have their way of doing things, okay? And that's the Virgo archetype, because it knows that something's at stake. What's at stake? Divine source energy coming into this plane. So it wants to do things the right way. This is the nature, this is what's behind technique in playing an instrument, or technique in painting, or the way that we meditate. Whereas Pisces is more about just the expressive flow, right? And they're working and hopefully in balance if we have a lot of that energy in our own chart. But this is a full moon in Virgo with all of that energy in Pisces. So there's a conversation going on between what has the potential to be really a new opening in our spirituality and the way that we communicate literally with, again, source, spirit, God consciousness, the way that it communicates with us, because Mercury is there, conjunct the sun. And it's conjunct Saturn, who's been on a journey in Pisces. And this is really significant because Saturn went all the way to 7 degrees, and then it went retrograde last year, and then it started going direct again. And now it's at 9 degrees where we're having this full moon. And that's kind of new territory. And so we might be opening up to something very new. We might be opening up to new realms, literally, because this is Pisces. And this full moon, especially if you've been feeling like new realms are opening up to you, if you've been feeling like a new calling is opening up to you, if you know that you're on this journey of transformation and that there's something new, because we've been going through a lot of very strong karmic openings and closings, then there could be, information about that, especially around the spirituality. And yet it wants to come and be embodied. It wants a little bit of understanding. And hopefully this full moon can bring some understanding. That's the Virgo energy, the illumination of how whatever is shifting in the Pisces areas of our chart, especially in that first decan, the first 10 degrees of Pisces, wherever you have that in your chart and what's been going on there, most likely there's been things shifting. Saturn has been going through that that for a while, and it's clearing it out. Saturn through Pisces is closing out a cycle before it enters Aries, which is a new journey around the zodiac. And in that Pisces realm that doesn't have boundaries, Saturn is going through and cleaning it out. It's like this part of our psyche that doesn't always get cleaned out. It's getting cleaned out. The cobwebs are getting cleaned out. The things in our life that just aren't serving us in that area of our chart, psyche life, some things absolutely wanting to be closed down, whether they're work or relationship or just part of how we view our own self. And it's wanting to create new boundaries so that we can embody a higher manifestation of ultimately spirituality, because that is what Pisces is about. And that is wanting to absolutely come through in the Virgo area. And the full moon is wanting to illuminate some of the practical things that we might have to do. And I mean, this could be habits. This could be mind-body habits. This could be things we've been working on, because most of us are always working on those habits around mindful food, exercise, sleep, the core things that are so supportive to our journeys and are usually the first things to go when the stress comes. This full moon might be about kind of realigning. It might be giving us more insights about just how that axis wants to flow. And there are other there's some more aspects going on. The other thing that is really important is that where we have all that energy in Pisces, well, Mercury is going to keep moving and the sun is going to keep moving, and they're going to pass Saturn. Just like Mercury, Mars, and Venus pass through the Pluto threshold to shift from Capricorn into Aquarius. Well, now, right, not only a few days after this full moon, I wrote down the date, February 28th. On February 28th, as the sun and Mercury are moving through Pisces, they're going to all be conjunct at 9 degrees of Saturn. So that is really significant, because it also suggests that this energy is really moving and something's changing. New structures, new boundaries, new questions about reality, new questions about the meaning of what this journey is about. These could potentially be pretty big questions. They could also just be coming up in things that have to be cleared out in order for the day-to-day nature of life to be facilitated in a more functional way. That's working with the axis of Pisces and Virgo. But the fact that, like, just a few days after this full moon, all of that energy is going to be conjunct, and then Mercury and the sun will move on, and Saturn will move much more slowly. It's also extending, pay attention to those Virgo illuminations, those kind of earth, mind, body, what's coming up, daily life. Virgo's also about our daily life and our habits, and that's why it also connects to mind, body. Just pay attention to what's coming up in the few days after this full moon. And also, there's other things going on. So one is that we are still working with Mars and Venus in Aquarius conjunct. So they really became conjunct on the 19th through 20th, 21st, but they're still very close together here. And then pretty much right after this full moon, they're going to start separating more. But this is, these two have come through the Pluto threshold, and that Mars conjunction of Pluto is intense. It is literally a death cycle, and usually there's a lot of resistance and projection with that, and it can be messy, it can combust. And so it's come through that. Venus has gone through. This is about our values and our drive. This is potentially a new union of divine masculine and divine feminine coming together so that we can hopefully have insights and inspirations about new ways of the divine feminine and the divine masculine within ourselves. working together, pushing through some of those very limiting stereotype lessons about gender, and feeling the pulsing archetypal energy of divine masculine energy, divine yang energy, divine yin energy, working together to support evolution, to support new ideas, to support the creation of new communities. These two are together, and they are squared Jupiter, who's in Taurus. Okay, so Jupiter is there in Taurus, and it is wanting to really create security, really create new manifestations of abundance in our sense of self, in our relationship to the material world, in our Taurus is earth consciousness, and the journey of Jupiter and Uranus through Taurus is absolutely, and especially when these two come together in April, is absolutely aligned with new embodiments of earth consciousness that hopefully are aligning with all of these radical ideas that both the Aquarius season and also Pluto having come into Aquarius, the fact that we had Uranus talking to our new moon. It's a lot of Uranian and Aquarius energy, which is all about the kind of radical evolution for the authentic self that's always also driven by the collective whole. And we have Mars and Venus there, divine masculine, divine feminine, perhaps coming together in a whole new way because they cross through Pluto. They're in a new cycle in relationship to the collective soul, into, the drive for transformation and evolution of the human species. And so we have an opportunity to kind of expand our understanding of these two archetypes, and they want to be working with that very grounded, expansive energy of Jupiter and Taurus. And this might even be getting practical. It might be having the really incredible ideas and also being like, okay, so what am I going to do now? That's also part of what the Virgo full moon might be illuminating for us. So it is really supportive to have the earth energy, that Jupiter is very activated. It's also in a wide trine to the moon. It's sextiling Saturn, and it's in a wide sextile to the sun. So Jupiter is very active, and it's really wanting to, Jupiter expands. That's what Jupiter does, but it also brings abundance, and it brings almost like a protective faith in the universe and in our own creative spirit to just manifest joy too amidst everything that is going on. And so that Jupiter being very active brings this strong grounding earth energy, as does our full moon in Virgo, to some pretty watery Pisces ways, okay? Because Pisces is watery. Pisces is moving without boundaries. It's empath energy. It is getting potentially confused between what's mine and what's the collective unconscious and what's the groups. And that's why Pisces often also requires non-explicit language, sometimes art, music, just aesthetic ways of communicating. And so during this full moon, great time to, I am always saying it's a great time to journal, but it also might be a great time to kind of see what do you feel like? Do you feel like having very kind of explicit journaling, this is what I'm thinking, or do you just feel like having a free flow? Because there's a lot of Pisces energy there too, so you might want to invite that. And then we also have Chiron conjunct the North Node. I have a whole other video on that, but that energy is here as well during this full moon. It ties into the Mars conjunct Venus because Aries is tied to Mars energy. So also there is this ongoing birthing of a new sense of self, sacred self, that's just aligning with everything that we're talking about. We are in it, folks. It's a lot. I am sending full moon blessings, and I will see you when I see you. Take care.